That was a sick outro. I really like that one.
Hey guys, we're starting something new today, and we're actually trying something new today for the first time. We're in a completely different environment for those of you that are watching on video. But Dina and I have started a podcast basically to share our entrepreneurial journeys. So if you guys are coming to this podcast after watching our first two, welcome back. If you guys are new here, we're about to introduce ourselves and our ventures and what we do for those of you who are essentially new to who we are. Um, so I'll just quickly hand it over to Dina. My name is Mun, but I'll let Dina introduce herself first.
Hey guys, my name is Dina Alsmack. I just graduated from the iBiomed program at McMaster University. So my background is kind of in biomedical engineering, but my specialization was in health engineering, science, and entrepreneurship. I'm also the co-founder of Power of Play, and we are creating a medical device that measures grip strength for pediatric rehab patients. So my journey's been a little bit interesting, and it kind of really started out in my program, where I kind of was introduced to the world of entrepreneurship in like the biomedical innovation space. I really fell in love with it in my first year. Didn't really have an idea that I wanted to pursue right away. So I kind of kept an eye out throughout my courses and tried to see what's possible and what area of innovation I was like interested in. Was it medical devices? Was it in the more research area and side of things? And I kind of have tried a couple of different options. And in my second year, I started Harmonies Innovations, creating an assistive device to help people with disabilities and kind of like limited hand mobility be able to access musical instruments. I worked on that for about a year. It was a great project to be working on. And then something else came up through a conversation that I was having with a professor of occupational therapy at McMaster University. And it was just a raw, kind of like authentic conversation that didn't really intend to turn into any sort of innovative research ideas. But we were talking about the struggles that, rehab therapists, so occupational therapists, physiotherapists kind of experience within their space. And she mentioned the lack of a device or a tool to measure grip strength for kids who are going through rehab. And she was saying, like, can you believe that the devices that we use for adults are the same ones that we use for kids? And they're so hard for kids to use. I mean, I've done like a grip strength test when I was in high school, and it was like the worst experience. And she was saying, like, can you believe that there's no like version for kids? Yeah. She was saying, when I was like in clinical practice, like we really struggled with it. And so I really wish somebody would like create a solution to this problem. And she was like, you're in biomedical engineering. Like, can you please create a solution? Awesome. And I guess that was like my spark for Power of Play. At that point, I was still working on Harmonies, so I was trying to figure out my path, and I guess we'll unpack that in a later kind of episode. But I ended up pivoting to Power of Play. Now I'm working with my co-founder, and we're working on developing the device and commercializing it.
Awesome. Just a thought from what you said, because I feel like, again, great need, great problem that you're solving. Just before I introduce myself, again, very informal, but I feel like, those grip strength tools that folks, I think, in athletics use to improve their grip.
Right.
Just a thought, like, I feel like that would be a really cool form factor, because I don't know, like you mentioned, like there's really bulky like alternatives currently in clinical use.
Yeah.
But again, something like that's smaller for, like, again, pediatric patients. Again, just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, but again, off the topic, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Man Parikh. I'm the founder and CEO of NerveU Surgical, and I also recently just graduated from the Biomedical Discovery and Commercialization program at McMaster. My journey with NerveU started, I think, in my third year of undergrad when I took a health ventures course. Kind of really liked the health innovation space and kind of creating businesses and the intersection of science, business, engineering, and just medicine. Decided to really kind of hone in on problem discovery in that course. Found a real unmet need. I was talking to a clinician, so similar to Dina, I really saw the pain in the clinician's eyes when I asked them, like, hey, like, what do you actually do today to solve this problem? Or what are some of the problems you have today in your practice? And they really kind of just froze for a second. And they were like, hey, like, we actually don't have a standard of care at all for identifying nerves during surgery. We actually just use the naked eye. Yeah. When I heard that at first, and I was like there's no way, like this is like I mean, surgeons are definitely like really well trained. They're the greatest people. But again, to not have a standard of care for like a really critical structure was just really kind of like important, and I guess like really like outstanding. But really kind of found that need, validated it time and time again with other clinicians, to understand if this was actually a gap that actually existed in healthcare. And then I really kind of found that need to be something I was really passionate about. And now I'm essentially working on NerveU full time after my undergrad. So we're essentially now developing a medical device that will help surgeons better visualize nerves during surgery to avoid accidental nerve damage, because the consequences of nerve damage, as you could possibly presume, are quite significant depending on the type of procedures and the type of nerves that are affected. So without getting into too much other detail, that's just a little bit of, I guess, what we're doing. Now we wanted to kind of give you an overview of why we're doing this podcast in the first place for those of you that are here. So I'll just go back to Dina for a second, and we'll kind of just have a conversation. Like, how did we kind of think about starting this podcast? Like, why did we start this?
I think it really, from what I remember when we started, we were like, because we would both work in the clinic.
Yeah.
And I would have my room and you would have your room.
Yeah.
And then there would be the odd times when we'd actually leave our rooms and be like, hey, how are things going and things like that. And then we end up going on these tangents and like just talking about the journey and the experience. And I think there was a lot of like overlap in the experiences that we'd notice. Sure. And we were like, oh my gosh, like I wish I knew this when I was like starting this out.
100%.
And I think that was kind of like how
and
it
I
started.
think even on top of that, it's just like, it's not even like what I wish I knew, but it's also like, hey, like what we're actually sharing with each other at this moment, our younger selves would have found this so much, like so helpful, right? Like what we were talking about, they could have just been honestly the randomest conversations about like, hey, like we had back-to-back like meetings for 5 hours. Like I haven't been able to get off my seat. It could have been, hey, like I'm having the worst day. I got like 7 rejections. But it's essentially like how we were overcoming those challenges and overcoming those failures. And to that point, our first podcast, which is the one after this, we're actually going to be talking about, and the topic of that conversation is going to be, we'll fail, but here's why you should keep going anyways, because that's what entrepreneurship at the end of the day is, like that's what it's all about.
100%. And I think for us, like, because we kind of, I would say if you take us as like infant entrepreneurs, like we're kind of like growing up in this like community.
Yeah.
Because for us, it started at university.
Yeah.
And that element of community is so important because you're just experiencing such unique experiences.
For sure.
That to be able to share those experiences and be like, and just see that like you're not the only one going through this experience, and that there are other people who have gone through it, who have learned from it, who have something to offer, or it could even just be like, so one thing that I've noticed is that there are pretty similar experiences whether you're earlier on in the stage or if you're later on in the stage, right? There's a lot of overlap there. And I think one of kind of like going back to your question, one of the inspirations for like starting this podcast is a lot of the times you're getting that advice. Like if there are podcasts out there that exist for entrepreneurship, a lot of the times it's people who have, gone through the process, exited their companies.
They've sold for $100 million.
Exactly. Like they've kind of gone so far into the experience that they look back and now they're offering advice, which is so awesome. But then there's that little bit of like the day-to-day.
There's like, I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect because they're so far ahead and they've already are so successful that they're now looking back to say, yes, like this is what my journey has been. These are the mistakes to avoid. These are the pitfalls I've had personally. Right. This is how you should avoid them. But this podcast, I guess, like the kind of unique value proposition for those entrepreneurs out there that we're trying to give you guys, is essentially a look into an emerging entrepreneur's day-to-day. And I think that's what Dina was kind of getting at, where it's like, we're not immensely successful yet. I mean, we're taking you on our journey with us, and we're hoping to share whatever we've learned throughout our last couple years in this innovation and entrepreneurship space with all of you to basically just essentially build a larger community of just learning, empowerment, and just
100%.
overall just exponential learning, because that's what entrepreneurship is.
And yeah, like you mentioned, like we're not that successful yet. I mean,
Yeah.
we've kind of made progress as much as we could in the time that we've had, but like we really want to showcase like the true, authentic
Exactly.
experience
Exactly.
of entrepreneurship. Like we do want to talk about the hardships. Do want to talk
Yeah.
about like right now I'm facing this setback, I'm facing this dilemma, and I don't know how to
Yeah.
move forward. But to kind of have that conversation and share that with a community is number one beneficial for us, so that we can kind of like learn from each other and kind of get ideas out there. But we hope that by sharing that it can also potentially help somebody else who's maybe going through that same experience.
Yeah, no, of course. And we want this podcast to be something like you're having a conversation with us. You feel included in the conversation, and you are really kind of like basically in this circle or community where we all experience very similar, if not the same setbacks, the same wins, time and time again, especially if we're in this health innovation field and even entrepreneurship at all, right?
100%.
And we just want to create a space where we can kind of come together, share our learnings, and really just kind of improve off one another. But yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing else to add for this podcast. We want to really keep this one short because this one's not really an official podcast.
This one's been a little bit more structured than how we want to kind of move forward, just because it's like telling you about our background and the context. But you know, we really want to make it like the whole thing. We would bring this up every time we talk about this podcast is like, we want this to be raw. We want it to be conversational. Like we want it to be uncut, unedited. You know, just something that is just simply a conversation.
Exactly. The 40 minutes of bloopers before this. Maybe we'll release those one day, but
maybe not today.
Maybe not today. But yeah, with that said, we're going to wrap this podcast up. We're going to hopefully send out our first official episode where we'll talk about essentially we're going to fail as entrepreneurs, but essentially here's why you should keep going. And here's why we've kept going anyways, regardless of the setbacks. So with that being said, my name is Mun Parikh.
I'm Dina Al-Samak.
And we'll see you on the next podcast.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.